Hey guys, I want to say thank you for watching this video. Before it starts, I want to explain to you what you're about to see. So I go to Antioch Church in Erwin, and every Wednesday night we have a Bible study group from 7 to 8. Normally our Bible study is led by the great Clay Hamilton. He does a great job. But at this time, Clay's had shoulder surgery, and so he decided to maybe get some people to fill in for him for a few weeks. And this week, the fill-in is yours truly and Joe Dorman. So me and Joe got together, tried to figure out a way of taking one of my boy crisis talk, put a little bit more religious spin on it, how it relates to the Bible. And what you're about to see is how it goes. Our Bible study is pretty interactive. We are really good at talking with each other, and hope you enjoy it. If you are close by and you would like to come to Bible study, we would love to see you on Sundays at church. You can always come to Bible study, and we'll all try to learn something together. Thanks for watching, and enjoy. All right, so everybody, tonight me and Joe have been working on this week, and we're going to talk about a thing I did called the boy crisis. We're going to try to put more of a true religious spin on it and how we can live a better life and do some things to help our sons and our daughters. So just to start with, me and Joe's been watching this thing with T.D. Jakes because he is the world's best communicator when it comes biblically next to Wesley Hamilton. And
Amen.
He's basically talking about how it starts out with like, we have God and God is our creator. But yet when we do, the church prayer or whatever, we always say, Our Father, who art in heaven. And the reason we say Our Father is because we're not going to call him our creator. We're going to call him our Father because when we have problems, just like you should go to your dad when you have an issue, you need to take it to God, right? Instead of always bowing down, which we know we bow down because we worship him, we want to create an intimate relationship with God. So that's why we always say Father. When we get into the thing with a boy crisis, I started researching this because there is a huge issue that we're seeing with young boys. The performance in school is going terrible. The stats of what they are and are not able to perform anymore, we're trying to figure out what's going wrong. I would tell y'all my true opinion is that once we gave girls an equal opportunity to perform like we have always been able to perform, you are far superior to us. You're mentally smarter, you're mentally quicker, you're better at compartmentalizing and everything else. But we still got to have some boys that make good dads, and so we got to do a little bit more to help them out and bring them back into the fold. So when I get into all of this, you can speak anytime. When I got into this,
speaking with his face.
Huh? Okay. So Joe's gave me a bunch of things to put in here with my talk or whatever, and one thing we kind of notice about young boys is they just don't think it's cool to study. All the cool kids smoke cigarettes and drive crazy and live a wild life. Basically, what we're seeing is when so many marriages are failing now. Stat-wise, we're at over 50% in divorce. And the reason we can't track it properly is because there is a lot of people not marrying. They're just shacking, having kids, and when they split up, census doesn't catch those numbers. So literally, it could be as high as 65% of all of our marriages are ending in divorce. So when it comes to boys in school, girls are doing way better in school than the boys are. They're almost a grade ahead of them at all times in English. When you look at the top of the class in any average school in America, 2/3 of the top are girls. If you want to find the boys, you got to look for the lower 2/3 of the class. So we passed Title 19 in 1972 because we needed to have gender equality. It wasn't fair that girls couldn't get entrance into colleges like they should have gotten a fair shot. Once we passed it, it actually worked. And when we allowed girls in there, because of their awesome abilities, they quickly surpassed what guys could do. Basically, when we passed Title 19, boys were ahead of girls 13% in school. Now girls are ahead by them 15%. So they caught up 13 and went an additional 15. That's 28% better. College is increasing in women enrollment. Public colleges are 60-40 girls. 60% that's getting in and applying are girls, only 40% are guys. Guys drop out more and they stop out more. Drop out is I quit. Stop out is when you try to convince yourself you're going to take a year off, and what you don't realize, you just talk yourself into dropping out. You're just lying to yourself, right? Private colleges are the exception. If you go to something like Meredith in Raleigh or whatever, it's all girls. It's going to stay all girls, and boys aren't going to penetrate it. But I do think we should equal the sex on that. Just see what it goes and see how they like that for a change. Boys are 6% more likely to drop out of high school than girls. Most boys, when they are in grade school, get labeled with learning deficiencies more than girls. Reason being, girls advance a year ahead of a guy by the time they're 5 years old. There's actually a lot of talks. Should we take and enter 5-year-old girls in school, in kindergarten, and then next year enter the 6-year-old boys in school in kindergarten? Because that's about the closest we can get them mentally equal with each other to be able to learn on the same level. When the boys get in there, they don't think like girls do. Their minds don't quite work, and they're genetically slower, right? They're just not developed as much. So when the kids are in there, the boys can't catch up, they can't keep up. And if you're a teacher and you're examining 30 kids and 10 of the worst ones are the boys, you start thinking, these kids got learning problems. They can't learn like these great 20 people we've got here. But come to find out, that's actually what the reason is. Their brains aren't as good.
I don't think it has to do with their brains aren't as good. I think boys learn differently than girls do. Mm-hmm. They're not designed to do the same thing at the same time.
Right.
Because you're right, Ava, like she was perfectly fine going into kindergarten at 5. Bear is 6, and he's just now going into kindergarten. And he is just as smart as she ever was. But he is a wild bundle of energy, and he is a lot to tame. But
no, you're right. So that you're on a real good point. So we look at our boys and we
separately for a long time.
We look at our boys and we see a little bit of chaos in them, right? Yes. Hard to wrangle,
yes.
Right? But that girl, man, she's just stood right to it. She sat down, she started listening.
Kids to have to deal with it. The harder ones are going to be the ones that get pushed aside.
I think it's more than just the harder ones. I think it's more across the board. And I think as girls, when girls sit down to play when they're young, let's sit down at the table. Let's have a tea party. Let's have birthday. Well, some of them. How about some of them?
Yeah.
I think that just naturally how they operate and how they interact is more conducive to that to that system than a guy is, right?
Yeah.
So just to add on to that a little bit more. So I think you're probably going to circle back to this, but the whole boy thing, like our boys were very intelligent at a very young age, but I think it's more because of the way we've interacted with them and the way we force them to interact at church and force them to interact with everything.
Yeah.
And
what do those kids got that 75% of most other kids don't have? Yep.
And so that
Their lives are
the dad.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily both parents, it's the dad.
That's right.
Yes.
I mean, we're a split family. I got 4 boys. I mean, I got report cards today. I've got 12-year-old straight A's. I've got one that's,
There's exceptions.
Are you involved in their life?
Extremely careful. Yes.
Then you're playing right along with the rules of the Seth family. You know what I'm saying? Because you're doing your job. You're doing exactly what you should do. So when we get into what the real cause is, and you're good, Seth, it's boys that don't have a dad are where we're seeing a lot of these problems come from. Yes, we're always going to have a kid that has a learning deficiency. Yes, we're going to have a kid that's just born wild.
Or it's not necessarily don't have a dad, but don't have a dad that is disciplining them and is the masculine person in their life.
Guidepost.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
I get you. And you're right. So when I got into that, I started looking up like all of the stats of kids that don't have fathers, right? So only 1 in 4 fathers live with their kids, right? So here we go. It's going to get worse. Split marriages results in 1 in 3 kids not seeing their dads after a few years. So most divorces, 3 out of 75% of the people, when the guy's trying, they end up split, he walks off, whatever it may be. In 1965, 25% of all black kids were fatherless. Today it is
70%.
70%. In 65, 3.2% of white kids were fatherless. Today it is 35%. Now, as a white person, it's sad that 35% of us don't have fathers. But as a black kid, you only have 30% of the fathers being there. Anybody want to take a guess as to why that is? Why it's more predominant with black people than it is white people?
Different values.
Different values. I like that thought.
I don't think it's different value. I think we created this.
How did we create this, if that's your thought?
We incentivized fatherless homes, as our government incentivized fatherless homes and made it more profitable for a family to be split up, to not have a father in the home.
Like a welfare family,
Welfare
tax
families.
benefits, 9
We've
kids.
given money and benefits to these households that just have a mother and don't have an active father in the house. And so, yeah, we've incentivized it.
And now it's become a generational thing.
Yeah.
Because
like that.
we're at like 2-3 generations out from that. And so that is just what they
Your
want.
idea is on the money, and your idea is really good. But I'm going to surprise both of you.
What
You're-
about my idea?
You're 100 years too late on your idea.
Well,
So let's say 1965, we started seeing those. We started seeing those programs, right? Those programs really started because I think logically, U.S. citizens wanted urban areas to have an increase and get help because they need help. But when we had slavery in America, right, we literally would never allow the man to stay with his family because he was more willing to fight and run. Because I'm sure whenever you guys held your first child or all of your kids, you weren't going to let nobody abuse that youngin'. So if you're an enslaved person, you're going to find a way to get that kid and that mama gone. So we would split them. We would sell the dad off, or if the dad was old, we'd sell the kid off. Because, hey, he's got his whole life ahead of him. You can work. And so I think that when you're in a generational, that's right. I think it's more because we have seen a repeat pattern in the 1800s. And sadly, I don't think it's ingrained in the black community enough to be able to bring it back together. There's exceptions everywhere. I know I'm glad there's a lot of people that do better, but there is a reason it's 70% and we're only at 35%. It shouldn't be at either. It shouldn't be at either number. Boys without dads don't have the leadership and support they need. And I can tell you from example, I was a hurt boy that turned into a hurt man, and I'm determined to hurt other people before I got therapy. I will spread my disease whenever I can. I'm happy to say I don't do it anymore a lot, other than Joe. I call Joe, fuss him out, but that's different. But Joe's my buddy who take it. So boys join gangs more to find male companionship because they don't have a dad at home. They use drugs more to become an escape. Been there before. Girls suffer too. This isn't just an all guy talk. A lot of girls that don't have a dad or a good dad take up with the first guy that they meet. Have less ability to judge if a guy is worthy of their love. They substitute sex for love. Early pregnancy rates rise, dropouts increase, and destructive cycles continue. I can tell you, not to be too detailish, but I married a girl who didn't have an optimal father. Even though publicly wise, a lot of people thought so. I think that because I didn't have one proper, and there was deficiencies on the other side, we both made bad decisions on being together. We both made terrible decisions on how to operate together. We both made terrible decisions on how to make it work. We did not cleave, as T.D. Jakes put it. So Joe sent me something that I watch. And basically, if you're going to be with your partner, which you guys are, and that's awesome, you got to learn to hold on to them. If you're riding a motorcycle, they call it cleaving. You lock on to the person in front of you and you ride. I tried a motorcycle one time. It was a terrible idea, folks, but we got cleaving. Let's go back to that. And, you know, anybody can ride. I can ride behind Seth on a motorcycle riding straight down the road. It's easy. I might only use one hand and just pat Seth on the head with the other hand. But when we hit a curve, I'm going to have to grip tight. Sorry, Seth. And so what we need to support each other more and learn better ways of when life hits them curves, how to hang on more and make better decisions to be able to stay with each other.
So,
Yes, ma'am.
sorry.
Please give me your comment.
So not a comment, but a helpful hint. And I don't know, like, if my dad was just lazy,
Mhm.
or if he was a genius, or if God just like stepped in. So we started dating when we were like 15, 16 years old.
Too young, as they call it. I've heard this before.
Too young, for sure. My parents definitely tried to split us up. It didn't happen, so they just kind of caved. But like as consequence, if I was late for curfew, or if I got caught being inappropriate at school, or whatever the case was, instead of me just getting into trouble, before he could take me out on another date, he had to come over and do chores with me. Like hard labor, like lay patios.
I think this
and
was
then,
a play.
and then dig the patio back up and relay it somewhere else.
No, I think this was just your dad getting some stuff done around the house.
It's possible, but like as an adult, and for as long as we've been together now, I was like, that's genius. Because at a young age, we got married at 19, and my dad had zero hesitations.
Mhm.
Like he had already put him through hell. He knew that he would work hard. He knew that he would stick with me, that he was a teammate, that we
He'd
could
work.
work well together, that he was trustworthy.
Do you think it was maybe your dad's way of doing a little pre-marriage counseling, see how things are
Oh, I'm
going?
sure.
That's awesome.
I'm
You should
sure.
go hug your dad when you see him.
But I do quite often. But I keep that in mind for when our kids start dating. That like our families, from both sides,
Mhm.
our family's involvement in our relationship from such a young age, and their continued involvement in like a positive light, has probably been like a good thing that has.
But
Help
that's
us through hard
exactly
times.
what we're saying when you say generational. You're seeing something that worked.
Yeah.
So your kids, you're going to see that they do the same way. Seth and Tony have done the same way. I mean, they're involved with the kids, and their kids, when they have kids, will be fine.
Yeah.
If you look back, and I was going to add this a while ago, 1965, 70, women started going to work. They started spending more money at the house. We want a beach house, we want a lake house, we want a camper, we want boats. It takes money, it takes two incomes to do all these things. All of that takes away from family. I know it's take the boat, take the family, but for 10 years, I fished 3 tournaments a month, and I didn't fish it with my kids. And there was pre-fishing and working on boats and retying tackle and did some of that with the kids, and I fished with the kids. But there is years and years in their 8 to 15 age that I was busy. And I worked 60 hours a week and fished. And you put all that together, I'm very fortunate that the 4 boys are here and as strong as they are and as well as they are and doing as good as they have, because there was a big time in there that I didn't spend the time with them that I needed to. And some of it was selfishness, personal stuff that I wanted to do, and some of it was just I had to work. I had 4 kids at home that I had to have income. And I've heard T.D. Jakes say you can work for income or you can work for outcome. But you spend too much time focusing on income, you have a really bad outcome.
Amen.
You've got to balance that thing out in there somehow or another.
I saw that movie one time.
Go ahead, Mr.
No, that's good, Chuck. That's good. Does anybody know what the word patur means?
What is it?
Patur. P-A-T-U-E-R. It means to mold one or to shape. Another definition is to model one in which to follow or succeed. This magical word, ladies and gentlemen, is the derivative paternal meaning of father.
It's
from the
actually
father.
a Greek word.
Greek
Latin
word?
for pattern. And that's what we were trying to get in the notes there, and I didn't get that plainly to you, but it is a Greek or Latin word for pattern. And men should be a pattern to their kids or to other kids. If you're a teacher or coach on a baseball team, football team, you should be a pattern for them to follow. And that word also is a subroot word for the word paternal. It's kind of funny how all that stuff rolls together, but paternal grandparents, your father's side, and pattern is a root word of that. So you should be a pattern. And it goes all the way back to these old days of language. It's kind of interesting when that stuff kind of, and all that's biblical. It's all in the Bible, and it's just amazing to me how that stuff never repeats itself, never kind of contradicts itself. It's just true. For 2,000 or 3,000 years, it's right on through today. One of these days, I'm gonna have the nerve to do it. I told Glenn what we should do. I'd like to walk up here and just say, I don't have nothing, I don't have a note, just tell me what's on your mind, and I'm gonna take the Bible and the cell phone, and we're gonna answer your question. Because that's usually what I do.
You're the team,
If I got some issues,
Captain Bible man.
I ain't had the nerve to do that yet. But
Well,
think
I told Clay 3 weeks. We can't do it next week, but I told Clay 3 weeks. No, I didn't talk to him. He's like, no, you can't have it 2 weeks in a row. I was like, okay, I won't do it 2 weeks in a row.
a little bit of Glenn goes a long way.
Hey, that's all anybody needs. I live at the beach, and I'm enough around here already. So I started going through, like, what can we do to help each other? What can we do to help boys and help our girls? Anybody got any ideas? Any suggestions on how we can help kids that need a dad? Girls that need a dad?
Focus on the kids. Fix the kids early and be involved in as many kids' lives as you can.
I like that, Seth.
You can't fix the adults.
So Hillary Clinton's not a real favorite person of mine by no means, but when she was First Lady, it's a bill, she came out with a book, and it said, the name of the book was It Takes a Village to Raise an Idiot. And I would tell you guys,
That was Bill's mom.
I don't know. I don't know who read it. But I would tell you that book is exceptionally true. I was raised by a village, and it would take an entire village of people ignoring me to make me more of an idiot than I already am. So they really did help. So if you are doing anything with your kids, Chris and me talked the other night, and he did Royal Rangers, right? Royal Rangers and stuff. All of these little programs that we can, even if it's taken, the kid that probably gets on your nerves in your neighborhood just to Walmart with you, right? That used to get on my nerves in the subdivision. It was that kid. I don't want to put it with that kid, right? Because I did not have this type of knowledge, and I was selfish, and I didn't want my kid to be around that kid because my kid don't need to act like that kid, right? But put the kids in your world. Some of my best times in life was being able to hang out with other people and seeing like real parents, whether it's your brother, you know what I'm saying? You'd be surprised where you find a little bit of leadership from when you start looking for it. It's always around you. And that's probably one reason I do love Joe so much. And I can't tell you why, but he just, anyway.
Blind, not even the blind.
Well, speaking of blind, I'm getting these glasses off. We'll talk about that later. I might wind up blind, but we're going to see. So we need to do more to help kids out, include them in all the stuff that you do. I've got a lot of other things that we should do more, and we're going to start getting a little more technical, but one of the things I think we should probably stop promoting the feminization of men.
Oh, yeah.
100%.
Right? We should encourage men to share at their pace, but don't punish them if they can't race into shedding tears. Full disclosure, I cry like a baby most of the time. Leave me alone 5 minutes, I'm probably be crying somewhere. I went today and got my nails done like most women do. So I don't know if I can even say this is a real stat for me to go over or not, but I like nice nails.
I think on the other side of that, though, as well, not just the not feminizing men. I think we need to be encouraging our young girls. Like, when I was in school, in high school in the 90s, I graduated in 01. Like, my only option was college. That was 80s and 90s. Like, everybody goes to college. We were set up to go to college in high school, at least at my school.
Yeah.
It was never put out as an option for me to get married and start a family. That's for in your late 20s. That's for when you finish college and start a career. That was never an option for me. Now, obviously it worked out the way it was supposed to for me. I didn't get married till I was 27, but I was not prepared to be a wife and a mother. My mom was wonderful, but she went to school full-time and worked full-time. So she wasn't like around as much as it would have been nice had she been. So I think
So you had some mom deficit going on.
a little bit. I mean, my mom is awesome, and she loves my kids, and she moved here to be with us, but it just looked different for us growing up. And I think that we need to do more encouragement of saying, you want to be a wife and a mom, like, let's get you ready for that life. Now, my kid wants it, both my girls want to go to college, whatever, like, we can work through that. But it was not given to me as an option to not do that and to find a husband. I don't know. I just think that we need to be encouraged.
Going back to your point about when the women went to work, the women went to work. Like,
Right.
the little girls then didn't have moms at home
Right.
either to show them like
Yeah, we were
how
talking.
how to manage a household,
Yeah.
and how to take care of a family, and how to cook for their husbands.
It's not just boys. Lynn's
Yeah,
keying on boys, but it's not. It really affects.
no,
I
it's
mean,
Yeah, I pirated this from my little YouTube channel and trying to convert it over or whatever.
Right. Well, and it took
But it's right. If you're got a girl that has been honestly shown things like for a house, you know what probably the best part of his day is? I won't speak for him. I'm going to answer for him. You know what the best part of his day is? You keep a home that he wants to come home to. See how sweet he is when he lets me talk for him? And that awesome?
I couldn't have said that.
That's just like, it's
So
You're right.
you make the house that he wants to come home to.
It took 15 years for me, like, we've been married for almost 14 years this month. Like, it took that long for me to, like, know how to do some of the most basic things, like getting up and making my bed,
Boiling water, stuff like that.
all that stuff. But, like, just the most basic things about wanting, or what you just said, making it, like, that he wants to come home.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that was a thing. No one ever explained that to me.
Yep.
I've already talked to my daughters about that. You want your husband to want to come home, and no one ever explained that to me. So,
And I can tell you, I wouldn't want. I don't want my wife. What do I say?
all right, you want to speak louder?
What did you say, Laura? We ain't got you on camera now. What you say? Oh,
she's playing butt panel.
okay. I have a daughter. I want her to go run the world, right? Now, when I say things, I'm not disparaging anybody or whatever. Some people, their whole joy, my grandmother's joy, was making sure the house was just like it needed to be, right? Food fell on the floor in the middle of the day, you could eat it because it didn't matter. There wasn't no dirt on that floor when it fell. Now, we all know that's not how we probably live. I get that. But I also don't want to ever villainize somebody that says, hey man, I ain't really caring about the house. I'm going to go be somebody that I want to be and fulfill my dream. I'm all about it.
Okay.
But it needs to be an understood agreement between both people. You know what I'm saying? Because he's going to have to figure out, hey, this ain't like you want. When you get home, you got to start a load of clothes. You got to do this, which you should be doing anyway, guys. Honestly, like once I kind of got on my own, I had to remember how to do all that stuff again. It ain't bad. It's all right.
But you have the option, and you will cleave, as you say, to the right person based on what God has for you, whether that's college, career, or being at home. But number one to all of that is, what does God want for your life, and all the options put before you.
What's the number one person in the world you had the most respect for?
My dad.
Bad answer. Right beside you, kid. Who's beside you? Seth, we thought I was talking about father things. Seth meant to say my wife Tony that handles all of my boys and keeps everything going right. I know what you meant to say, Seth. And second place was his father, but not first place.
The reason I am who I am is because of my dad.
That's right.
And so he taught me to respect that.
And you're doing your boys the same way, because I've seen it.
Yeah.
Now, 4 years ago, I don't remember, I played a video for the men. Some of you probably saw it. There's a senator, I don't know, congresswoman, senator, the Muslim lady from Michigan, Talita Cherie, or whatever her name is, I don't even know. But she played the video, and they were going to turn the United States Muslim. She said, we will do it by addressing the children. We will get the schools first. And they had a plan. I mean, they had it. She had it just laid, and she shared it right on YouTube video. Now they've taken it down. It's not out there anymore because I tried to find it a few days ago.
There's a defected Russian KGB agent, Yuri Bezmenov. He predicted this on an interview in 1984, which is the same year I was born. He predicted, and we're just a couple years behind his prediction. It's the same thing as
And they were working on it before '84. He just told us about the
Yeah, he
plan.
told
It's
us
been in
about
that like since '65 or '75 or
Correct.
something.
Yes, sir.
If they can divide the household, and they can get the kids.
Well, part number one was remove God from the family. That was part number one. And they go through the whole thing.
What is that? You ever listen to that Paul Harvey thing? that big long speech he had. If I wanted to destroy the United States, if I was the devil,
If
yeah,
I was the devil.
you should listen to that because it's really eerily similar. First thing I do is make kids not pray in school anymore. You know, and it's like, oh boy, okay, we're really hitting a lot of these hits here. But all right, so another thing that we kind of wish would stop happening. It is funny, but it's kind of gets old that Hollywood only portrays dads as bumbling idiots and goofballs. Back in the 50s and 60s, you'd watch like, you know, Leave It to Beaver and Dad Knew Best. And nowadays it's Dad Knows Less because he's an idiot. We need more mentor programs like Chris was dealing with the Royal Rangers. Does anybody know the story of George Foreman? Anybody seen that? They just put out a movie about him. Y'all watch that? So George Foreman grows up very poor. He's actually mad at God. He's so poor. Doesn't think it's fair. He had a sister that believed in God. Always prayed for him. He kind of loved her, but brushed it off, right? Let's pray, George. Let's pray together, George. I'm good. You pray for me. And so we watch as George Foreman makes this meteoric rise. He becomes heavyweight champion of the world. He fights Ali. Ali dupes him. Basically, it's like the old Rocky movie, tire him out. And when he's out of breath, then Ali attacks and takes him out. And he can never really get back on top again because mentally and physically, it's not right. So he's trying to take all these different fights he can and try to get his way back to Ali because he wants to be heavyweight champion. After one of these multiple fights he's lost, he goes to the dress room or whatever, and he's hot. He keeps hearing these crazy voices, his trainers and his teams with him, and he's talking to people, and ain't nobody in there talking but him, and they're like, what's wrong with George? What's wrong with George? George passes out. Comes back in a minute or two. Logically, he died, you know, because there was no pulse, no breathing, no nothing, and he just snaps back to. When he snaps back to, as best I can remember, he's been having like a 20 or 30-minute conversation with God. God tells him, you need to take your talents, you give your life to me, go start a church and start a boys club. You need to help kids that were as bad off as you. And George is very obedient. He does it. After about 10 years, nobody's tithing in the church, nobody's donating to the boys club, and George is out of money. He's done everything he can do to keep it open, and he finally just breaks down and says, God, you told me to do this. Why are you hurting? You know, why are you not helping me make it successful? And God said, if you want to make anything successful, George, you got to go fight for it. So George, the only time it's happened in history, 10 years after, starts training to get a shot at being a world heavyweight champion again. And he becomes world heavyweight champion again. The only guy in history you're going to see is a 10-year gap between those two events, right? And you should watch, you see like how he trained. It's kind of crazy. But George believed that he was going to do the right thing, and all that money he was going to get maybe $2 million from this fight. And I can't remember who was fighting, but he was going to get $2 million from this fight, and it would keep his church going and keep the boys club going.
That was the purpose of him.
That was the purpose of the fight. He didn't even want to fight anymore. They kept trying to talk him into fighting. He was like, no, I don't do this. I'm here to spread God's love. I'm tired of spreading hate with my fist. Okay? So many people tuned in to see if the man could come back and do the deal. The $2 million he was expecting to come in from watching the fight turned into 12 when they deposited the check. Right? And George's like, oh, I got all the money I need. We're good. Church ain't never going to shut down. Boys clubs ain't never going to shut down. Well, then George, when he was trying to make ends meet, everybody knew George Foreman's face. So George starts doing infomercials, helping people out. And some people could pay him the $1,500 or whatever it was. Some people didn't have any money. They just put all their money in their invention. But he wanted George Foreman's face on it. So one company offers George Foreman ownership. Hey, George, if you'll do this commercial for me, I'll give you part ownership in the company. George does it. He's doing a bunch of infomercials that day. Wouldn't you know it? The one thing he puts his ownership in is the George Foreman Grill. And it skyrockets. And the man, I don't know the exact figures, but I would imagine it's well into the hundreds of millions of dollars he's made in royalty fees on that thing. I bought enough of them to at least buy my Mercedes or something myself, right? So when God gets involved, we all know things just get better. I can tell y'all like 3 other stories that I should actually tell you this other story, but anyway, you find something else here. 2 out of 5 households have the woman as a breadwinner. Do y'all think that's a bad thing? There's no wrong answer. Just asking.
I struggle with it sometimes. Like,
I'm here.
I've seen some families where the wife is more successful in that realm of things, and their family seems to work good. I know me, myself, like it would be a pride thing, but I think it just depends upon the family. If the wife can still show obedience to the husband, like, and live a godly life, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. But if it comes to where the husband's just sitting around, wife's paying all the bills, making all the decisions, it becomes reversed then on the roles in a godly household.
I agree with you. On the other hand, it does take away my ability to aim to be a trophy husband someday, but I get it. So, fathers make deposits in kids' lives and their development that they can make withdrawals from for the rest of their life. Those kids, every bit of deposit that you as a father put into your children, they get to make a withdrawal from it the rest of life because you build them to a better person. I will give you a twist on that from my own personal struggles in life. I would love to have the ability to be with my kid and see one withdrawal made, but that's life too. What we believe, that we need to all learn to believe that fathers matter and we treat them as such. It's not if they do X, Y, or Z. They just matter for the kid's sake, period. Home life has to be a real partnership. A man can give a family a house, but who makes it a home? Mom makes it a home. Why was David on the rooftop looking at Bathsheba? This is Joe's show, not mine. Proverbs says it was better to dwell on the rooftop than inside with a contentious woman. I agree, Joe. I once had to dwell with 2 contentious women at one time in my house, and I had a daughter. God bless them. So, anybody else got something they want to bring up before I tell another crazy story?
So one of the things that I wanted to, so the first one you said was to stop perpetuating the demasculation of males. Mm-hmm. The second one was something or other, but related. And then, so one of the things I thought about when you started going down the list, and this goes along with multiple of those things, is stop perpetuating the demasculation of males, but also teach girls to look for a mate that is going to become a good mate.
That's worthy of their love.
Right.
Because that's a good point, Sam, because if they don't have a guy that they see making a true example in life of how they should be treated and how they should be handled, they've got to learn somehow how to handle it. And it isn't by trial and error of sex.
And that's the thing. You're not necessarily, everybody knows that I'm a very extremely technical and logical person. When I was looking for a girlfriend or a wife or whatever, I was looking for somebody who was going to be an awesome mother to my children. That was going to be.
This is sweet.
That's what I was looking for. Wasn't looking for love or sex was looking for somebody that was going to be an awesome mother for my children. Women should be looking for the same thing. And in the same way. And if that's what's happened, you're looking for a mate to spend the rest of your life with. Mm-hmm. That's what it's supposed to be. And so if that happens on both sides, then you enter that thing totally different mindset.
I agree with you. I'm going to throw this out there. If you only concentrated on them youngins with that woman, what you going to do when they go to college? Now you're looking going, I got to put up with this woman the rest of my life.
But so in the same light though, a father is just as important for that, because they're the ones setting the example to their daughters.
That's right.
About what a man looks like in a marriage. Because unless my girls get the right example, I didn't get that kind of example.
No, but he should be doing it. I can tell by what he handles with Jews.
And he does, but I didn't get that example. So things got really hard and difficult for me. I had a dad and a stepdad who now are really great, but back then things were rough. And so I didn't get that good example. And so I made a lot of mistakes before I met him. So that is just another good reason for men to be one of the biggest parts of their children's lives. It's not just a good example for a son, but a good example for a daughter as well.
Who do you have the most respect for in your world? That's right. Look at that smile on that face. That's what I said.
It gets back to the pattern though. I mean, it doesn't matter if it's boys or girls, a father and a mother, a joined family is a pattern. Your kids will do much, much, much better in 10, 20 years from now than the average kid. They won't be one of these statistics he's reading, I almost promise you.
Oh, there's gonna be one of my kids that's gonna be.
That is so wrong. I married this woman to raise my children, and one of them's going to be a statistic. What is that?
I was always told if you're not having a policy written because of you or for you, you ain't doing your job.
Yeah.
Look, there's a lot of, I mean, if you just, any statistic, there's a lot of 1 in 4s. You got 4 kids, I got 4 kids. I should have lost a kid, I should have had one to go to drugs. 1 in 4 does this, 1 in 4 does this, 1 in 4. But all 4 of mine haven't, all 4 of yours will be the same way. And mine had good grandparents when I was absent. And I was working a lot. I was concentrating on income, had to. But there's still looking back. I wish I had done a little bit more than I did. It worked out, but they shouldn't. Mine shouldn't be as good as they are. And I don't have a lot to do with it. But
We don't know why they are either, Joe.
but if you got young kids or grandkids, in my case, I try to do a little better with the grandkids than the kids. Support them, build them up. You know, you can tear a kid down, especially if I was coaching. You know, I've coached a little bit, but I don't coach anymore. But attitude at Little League and you know, through middle school, man, you can have a real good ball team and have a bad attitude and lose every game. You can have an average ball team with really good attitude and win a lot more than you lose. And at that age, man, that mental attitude is a big, big deal. Talking about momentum switches and things, and it's the same way growing up. It's all a game, I guess, but growing up is a pretty serious game. But if you don't build them up and promote them, somebody may. It may be the wrong way to go.
Last thing I want to say is when you pick that person, and obviously most of y'all have, right? Because y'all with somebody. Life's going to be hard. It's going to hit you in ways you're not expecting. I feel like we also need to explain to our kids that even the best person they can pick, the person they think hits all the marks, they're going to be failures in other ways. And we got to teach them how to compassion to work with them. And if it's your daughters and they have a guy who he's 95% good, but he's off a little bit, work with the boy. Give him maybe a little mental health. Maybe there's something in the past that he don't know about.
Maybe gets to learn compassion through my deal with Bear. I'm very compassionate with Bear. Okay. Because he requires a lot of it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That's a good one, Daddy.
He's hilarious. He's hilarious, but I know y'all go through about twice as many shoes as other kids, don't you? Because he's running all the time.
Gracious.
I can tell y'all that some of the strongest marriages I've seen growing up with my grandparents, and I love them 2 people back there in that back wall back there. When you see people go through real tragedies in life and they stick together, it gives me hope that everything's going to be okay. And we all got stories and we all got things we can tell, and, you know, times to cry, times to cheer. But work it out. Don't give up and walk off. We all have times we walk off. I'm guilty of it. Other people have been guilty of it with me. But I don't know. I just kind of love y'all people, and y'all seem to be really good at a lot of stuff, so I enjoy talking to you. Anybody have any prayer requests they would like to give before we get out of here? All right, I'm going to throw mine out first. They cut my eyeballs in the morning. I want y'all to pray that I have sight tomorrow night when they get done cutting my eyeballs up. So I'm having lenses put in so I can throw these glasses away and I can be beautiful forever.
Don't forget the rub button.
That's what I'm going to do. I want to look like Brad Pitt after he had a horrendous car wreck. Let's see.
Before you pray,
yeah.
Guys, I listen to T.D. Jakes and Robert Morris. There's a half a dozen of guys that I listen to. I drive a lot, so when I get on the road, listen to a lot of radio. I just take my phone out of YouTube. But if you've got an hour and 55 minutes or something, that's the problem with T.D. Jakes. His sermons are an hour and 40 minutes, an hour and 50 minutes. You bring you a chicken sandwich when you go into his church. But there's a video, he and his wife are just sitting in front of an audience talking. His surname's Sarita, I think. But it's T.D. and Sarita Jakes. Winning at Home is the name of that video.
I'll post it on our group message thing.
I mean, if you go, especially to sit with a couple and look at it, there is, T.D. can say stuff at his church that we wouldn't say at our church. He's well grounded, I think, in there. He was, he's standing, he said, look, I preached, I had on a robe. And I told her, you didn't marry the robe, you married the Negro in the robe. And that's me. And he said, and I told her, he said, I didn't, and forgive me, but he said, that woman right there, and there's more to her than what you see. It's all inside, and this was in the church house. But I mean, he's obviously, he is the best communicator. He can bring out points and stuff in the Bible that I've read over and over and over, and I just don't see it in Robert Morris the same way. But I spend a lot of time reading, but I spend more time listening. I got 2 or 3 black notebooks that I ride around. I told the guys we got one of those Hummers in that had the Super Cruise, and I drove it to the beach, and I pushed a button, and I turned the wheel loose, and I set my notebook up here, and I turned my T.D. Jakes thing, and I just sat here and I wrote my notes. And in a few minutes, that thing said, driver, pay attention, or something.
If he'd have read, it was going to take God to fix it anyway, so he'd been all right. He was on the right path.
But that's typically what I do before I get any information. I'm not smart enough to read this stuff and discern it and understand it, but they can break it down where it makes a lot of sense. And it's stuff that I've read over and over and over. I look at, well, man, why didn't I see that? But it's good. If you would spend a few minutes, I told you 2 or 3 years ago, we watched the one about when men fall short.
Yeah, that's the best one.
Was Father's Day. And that really, I think if every couple would sit through some of those things, the divorce rate would cut in half.
Yeah.
Just understand what the lady goes through. For the lady to understand what the man goes through, it's eye-opening.
I think as guys, we think we have the whole world on our shoulders. In a lot of ways, we do. It's up to us to perform and be the hunter-gatherers that everybody says we're supposed to be. But on the other hand, I wouldn't want to be the woman in the house either. I couldn't do that.
Couldn't do it. Couldn't do it.
And I think we just need to learn to roll with the punches a little bit better, hug each other a little bit tighter, and roll on about our way.
This
Don't worry,
is
John.
this is also a really long game, because if it took 4 generations to get us here, it's going to take 8 to get us out.
Yeah. But
The
it's gonna
journey
take
of
a change.
1,000 miles starts with
One step.
start stepping.
But we just don't seem to recognize what's going on, and I mean, it's like you say, it's gradual, and I've done a little bit of talk about things ain't what they appear to be, and there is a lot of stuff that's not what it appears to be. The news media is killing us. It's just, and everybody knows it, but we all watch it.
Well, I think we all just need to lead by example, too. And you can't fix, how many people we got at Antioch? How many people attend church here?
250.
250, 300? There's like 10,000 sometimes. But the only thing we can do is lead the 250 the right way. And then everybody can just watch. I can tell you, I hang out with Joe a bunch, and I hang out with Lauren Rodney a bunch. They had this little thing in our neighborhood, and they were playing music, had a band there, we were eating food and all that stuff, and I looked over to talk to Joe, and Joe wasn't there. And I was like, well, where'd that rascal go? And I look out there, he's in the middle of the cul-de-sac, just him and Tyner by himself slow dancing. I took a picture of him. I said, that is one sweet booger right there, you know what I'm saying? Because it's one thing, guys, we're like, just baby, I'll go dance with you, because there's a group of people. This guy did it on his own. I think it deserves an award. Well, that's the end of this video, ladies and gentlemen. No, I love you some Joe. Anybody else have anything they need on the prayer request?
Pray for Claudia and New Zealand.
Yeah, I talked to him yesterday. I hope he can just stick with the program and not hurt himself.
Chrissy asked for everybody to come and remove all large equipment pieces from that.
Too much Hamilton in him.
All right, if that's it, everybody, Joe, pray us home. I like you better, Joe.
Father God, we thank you so much for this day, Lord, for all your many blessings. Lord, we thank you for each one here tonight that's given their time to come and fellowship with us, Lord, and to learn more about you, God. And I think we're all in agreement that the world is what it is and that we've gotten further and further away from you. And even if it happens gradual or whatever, we just need to start turning our focus back on you, Lord. And such an example as you've given us through the Bible and these good ministers and preachers and speakers, it's just easy to find, and we just need to stop and make a decision that we're going to look back to you and follow you, Lord. And I just pray for the request that here tonight, Lord, for Glenn with his surgery tomorrow and Clay that's had his surgery, and I thank you for the success there, and I'm sure Glenn will have the same stuff tomorrow, Lord, and just thank you for it, for all your blessings and your mercy. Be careful to give you the credit for it all. In your son's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank y'all for coming. Listen to me run my big mouth.
Good job.
Thank you.